Alrighty, this is a review for Robert A. Heinlein's Starship Troopers. Now, most people are probably familiar with the Paul Vanderhoeven film, which came out in 1997, and it was a satire. It went a little bit overboard and was really fascist, right? So people assume that haven't read the book that the book is like, extremely fascist. And I was I was kind of under that assumption as well. Now, I read this before. In fact, I think the last time I read this book was back in 1997. This is the copy that I had back then. You can see it's kind of beat up. So I reread it. It's only 200 pages. It's just another short read that you can just knock out like no problem. But that film, Starship Troopers, starring Casper Van Dien and Doogie Howser and Denise Richards. It's really action packed and it's dumb as a brick. Okay, this book has a lot of substance to it, a lot of philosophy. I would say that the vast majority of the book is Johnny Rico in boot camp. And yeah, I mean, it's probably, I'm going to guess, like 75% um, not action, like as far as non-combat. Now, the first chapter when it opens up, the Terran, what are they called? The Terran Federation, right? Because the globe is united, humanity is all like united as one. All of the governments that we have now have all collapsed, and we're under one world government. It's called the Terran Federation, and they're fighting some nameless, aliens that they call the Skinnies. They're actually on a raid, and unlike the film, okay, the book has mech armor. So if you're familiar with stuff like Voltron or Gundam Wing, trying to think of other Mobile Suit Gundam. What other shows have got mech suits in it? James Cameron put mech suits in Avatar, even though I don't like that movie. Ripley has a mech load lifter suit in Aliens. So they have like these mobile suits. They're called the mobile infantry. Well, mobile infantry unit is what Johnny Rico is in. And Johnny Rico's nationality, he is Filipino, but his parents are very wealthy and they actually live in Brazil. And in this society, like, you have to serve in the military in order to be granted citizenship, full rights of, be able to vote, serve in political office and whatnot. And so service grants citizenship, right? But the book's main focus is really on the, what do you want to say? The responsibility of the individual or the duty of the individual in a society. And let me read an excerpt from the book, one of the philosophical conversations that took place to kind of give you a flavor for what's in here. So Johnny has a class that's taught by this Mr. Dubois in his high school, and this is I think it's moral philosophy and history. And they're having a conversation here, and Dubois asks, he says, let's see, value. If you can listen, perhaps you can tell the class whether value is a relative or an absolute. So Dubois is asking Johnny. And Johnny says, I had been listening. I just didn't see any reason not to listen with eyes closed and spine relaxed, but his question caught me out. I hadn't read the day's assignment. An absolute, I answered, guessing. Wrong, he said coldly. Value has no meaning other than in relation to living beings. The value of a thing is always relative to a particular person. It's completely personal, indifferent in quantity for each living human. Market value is a fiction, merely a rough guess at the average of personal values, all of which must be quantitatively different or trade would be impossible. I had wondered what father would have said if he had heard market value called a fiction. Snort in disgust, probably. So Johnny's father's very wealthy. He wanted Johnny to go to Harvard, right? He says, this very personal relationship value has two factors for human being. First, what he can do with a thing, its use to him. And second, what he must do to get it, its cost to him. There's an old song which asserts the best things in life are free. Not true. Utterly false. This was the tragic fallacy which brought on the decadence and collapse of the democracies of the 20th century. Those noble experiments failed because the people had been led to believe that they could simply vote for whatever they wanted and get it without toil, without sweat, without tears. Nothing of value is free. Even the breath of life is purchased at birth only through gasping effort and pain. He had been still looking at me and added, if you boys and girls had to sweat for your toys, the way a newborn baby has to struggle to live, you would be happier and much richer. As it is with some of you, I pity the poverty of your wealth. You, I've just awarded you the prize for a 100-meter dash. Does it make you happy? I suppose it would. No dodging, please. You have the prize. Here, I'll write it out. Grand prize for the championship, 100-meter sprint. He had actually come back to my seat and pinned it on my chest. There, are you happy? You value it, don't you? I was sore. First that dirty crack about rich kids, typical sneer of those who haven't got it, and now this farce. I ripped it off and chucked it at him. Mr. Dubois looked surprised. It doesn't make you happy? You know darn well I placed fourth. Exactly. The prize for first place is worthless to you because you haven't earned it. But you enjoy a modest satisfaction in placing fourth. You earned it. Yeah. This is speaking right against stuff that's happening today with, everybody's a winner. Everybody wins. There's all kinds of philosophical stuff in this book, and you can agree or disagree with it. Agree with Robert Heinlein and or get mad at him. But I'm just gonna say this was a thought-provoking read about the moral responsibility of the individual within a society. And there's a lot going on in it, it's very interesting. But I do think that this was, this is a product of the 50s. So looking at it allegorically speaking, of course, they're fighting against giant bugs. And the bugs, they're communist. They're stand-in for communist, specifically the Chinese. I think this was written as a attack against the Maoist regime, because there is a section in the book, and I can't remember what page it was on, where they talk about the Russo-Anglo alliance. So it's like the Russians and the Europeans got together and the Americans got together to like fight the Chinese. So I think it's specifically, using bugs as a stand-in for the Chinese, which I'm just saying, don't take it out on me. I didn't write the thing. I'm just saying. But this book did win the Hugo Award in 1960. But this book is it's controversial. This is a controversial book. Heinlein was a controversial figure. But, I did my duty. I did my service to my country. I served aboard 2 Coast Guard cutters, the Acacia and the Dauntless. I think there is something to serving your country. I don't know. I don't know if I necessarily agree with Heinlein that you should have to, or with the concept of this book that you should have to serve in military service to be granted citizenship. But I do think that we would be better if perhaps one of the stipulations to be POTUS, President of the United States, was military service. Um, I mean, if the president is a man that has served, then maybe he'd be quicker to negotiate rather than put people's lives at risk, because the whole idea of the military, right? Military action is that it's an extension of politics. When diplomacy fails, then we solve things with force. And that's one of the things that's discussed in this book is the use of force, the use of violence. Um, what is the necessity of war? Like, it's a very interesting read. It's 200 pages, and these guys use these mobile suits, these mech units. They're basically just walking death machines. I mean, it describes them, the suits looking like gorillas, which one of the things that they say, come on, you apes, they use it over and over again in the book. So one of the reasons is because it's just a term that goes back to ancient history, but the other one is because the suits that they're piloting, they actually look like apes. They're like, think of like Iron Man suits, but like armed to the teeth and bulkier, so pretty interesting science fiction classic. This book kind of launched the whole military sci-fi, and I'm going to say right now, this is the probably the best book I've read here in 2024, and I'm going to give it 5 stars. I think this is a 5-star book. I don't hand those out a whole lot. Um, I quite enjoyed this book, and it had a lot of thought-provoking content in it. So I got 2 winners back to back. I will definitely be reading some more Arthur C. Clarke, just because the interesting ideas that he has. I might hang with sci-fi, science fiction for a while, um, before I tackle some more. Well, I don't know. We'll see. We'll see. I don't know. I don't know. I don't know what I'll read next. But anyways, thanks for watching. Starship Troopers. Really enjoyed this one. Much better than the Paul Vanderhoeven film. By the way, one of the reasons why that Paul Vanderhoeven film is the way it is because Vanderhoeven himself said he read the first 2 chapters of the book and then quit reading it. So he didn't even read the book. So, of course, the adaptation is ridiculous. I mean, one of the things that you got in here, right, in this book is it's pretty much all men. The mobile infantry, it's all dudes. Whereas in the film, it's like co-ed. So that was different. Basically, the females still pilot the ships and stuff, but that movie has little to no resemblance to the content of the book. There's maybe just a handful of chapters in the book where they're actually fighting, engaged in combat with, the bugs. The rest of the book is very philosophical, characters talking and whatnot. And it kind of, if you want a comparison, maybe I was thinking, so I was reading this, it really reminded me of like either Kubrick's Full Metal Jacket or the Clint Eastwood movie Heartbreak Ridge, right? I can really see Dubois in the book, or one of these guys, these old salty dudes, being played by Clint Eastwood. Or, John Wayne did that propaganda film. What was it? The Green Berets. Like, I could see the Duke as, as Dubois if the Duke would have done a sci-fi film. I could see him in that role, of that character. So, yeah, I like this quite a bit. Anyways, thanks for watching. Have a wonderful day. See ya.